Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Bryton Rider S510 GPS bike computer. Bryton's S-series of GPS cycling computers have been the brand's premium GPS computer lineup and offer colored touchscreens with the latest features. The new Bryton Rider S510 is the latest iteration of the 500 series, and it offers refined design, larger screen, as well as more intuitive features. As far as the packaging, you can see you have a nice glossy representation of the computer on the front. Bryton's branding here with the black and green coloring, and then basic specs printed on the back. The whole box is pretty small too. This is the non-sensor version, just the head unit. Go ahead and open this up. We'll go over the specs. Retail price on this is $249.95. It has a 2.8-inch color touchscreen, so nice and large, which lets you see everything. You also have their latest Climb Challenge, so Climb Challenge 2.0, and that means you can actually see the hill climb for whatever route you're on in real time, so you don't have to be limited to a predefined route, which is a really cool feature that we've seen with the Garmin devices. You also have a 30-hour runtime, as you have a nice large battery in here. You have Bryton's group ride and chat, which lets you do real-time tracking of other people on your ride, as well as allow you to chat with them directly on the device. And then what's cool about this is they finally added the removable mount, so these are actually just bolted on, and you can swap this out for a standard Garmin mount. As far as what comes with it, you can see we have the head unit, a USB-C charging cable. We have a basic handlebar mount. Kind of surprised to see this rather than at least a plastic out front mount. You can see this uses the O-rings and then 4 hooks. Then we have the instruction manual with that basic plastic screen protector on there. Now let's take a look at the weight of the S510. So the computer by itself comes out to about 94 grams. Visually, the S510 mimics the S800 with these smooth corners and a very nice premium looking appearance. It's a welcome departure from the previous S500, which had really large bezels and this kind of awkward cramped display. With this one, you get the 2.8-inch screen and minimal bezels on the top and bottom. You can see it's pretty attractive too, with a 14.9 millimeter thickness. So it looks pretty thin. And then the smoothed out corners, it's mostly black plastic, but you can see there is this light gray accent color that goes around the buttons and around the base. Gives a little bit of more contrast. You have the Bryton logo on the front and then underneath the main screen. There's also this nice USB Type-C charging port with this nice little rubber cover to keep the water out. And you can see it actually goes in there nice and flat. And there's a little cutout here for the safety tether if you wanted to secure that to your handlebars. Despite being a touchscreen, you do have 4 buttons, which is nice. So you're not limited just to the touch interaction. You have dedicated power buttons, lap button, start, stop, and then page cycling. Each of the buttons has this nice bevel design. So you can see they have this nice edge on them. So it's very easy to feel, and you can tell which button you're on. As far as mounting, you can see this uses the standard Bryton mount. It looks very similar to a Garmin mount, but you can see the actual tabs here are just thicker. That's the main difference between the Bryton one and the Garmin. Same orientation, but these tabs are thicker. You can't force it onto a Garmin mount, but it will end up deforming these mounts and the mount for the Garmin mount. So then it won't work with other devices, so we don't recommend it. The nice thing about this is you can actually swap this out for a standard Garmin mount. So if you don't have a KOM cycling adapter or a mount that is designed for Bryton, like the Bryton Sport mount, you can just swap this out. So 4 screws, you can purchase the separate adapter, pull this out, put the Garmin one on there, and then put this on your standard out front mount. It's kind of surprising they only include the cheap plastic puck for the mounting. We highly recommend getting an out front mount. So instead of putting this on your stem here or in your handlebar, kind of offset, out front mount will put it right in front of your stem. So you have great visibility, and then with dual-sided out front mounts, you can put the light underneath for really stealthy installation. As far as the user interface on here, it actually uses a combination of the touchscreen and the power buttons. You can see if I hold the power button down, that'll power on. You get nice little dingles and dongles with the sounds. And it's the same kind of interactions that we've seen with the other Bryton computers. You can swipe left and right to switch between bright profiles. It's a touchscreen too, so I can just click on menus And you actually have to use a combination of the touch and the buttons to access everything. It also has some cool features like a just click to get to the quick access menu. This is fully customizable, so you can change the widgets on here, and it's very easy to access. You just tap anywhere. You also have the normal upward swipe to bring you back to the main menu. And then starting and stopping is the same interactions. You just press the button to start. Obviously, I haven't set up the time yet. And then you can even do on-the-fly changes to the field. So if I do a long hold, you can see now I have the pencil button. If I press it again, you can see I can actually change it while I'm riding. So a pretty cool feature and something you only see on the higher end computers. You also have multi-page display, obviously with a map view, the climb challenge, and the group chat pages when they're enabled. Now let's take a look at the user interface of the Bryton 510. As you can see, it's very similar to previous models. You have a little indicator of which mode you're in on the top, so you can customize it for different bikes or different kind of riding styles. Then you have your courses here, and under courses, you actually have more options than just what course would mean. You can explore, so it'll help you just find a route, depending on where you're at, and if you have a phone app connected to it. You can do different workouts. You can connect to your smart trainer. And they also have their group ride and chat feature, so using the app, you can actually set up a group ride, and then you can access it here and have multiple people on there and see them on here. And we have a whole video, separate video on that. If we go back, you can set up navigation. We can do some basic configuration options. And a lot is a lot easier to do on the app itself, but you can see display settings, you can set the backlight, you can do the sensor connectivity, and these all connect really quickly. Basic system options, you can turn off the noise, you can enable or disable sound, auto power off, and the full data reset. Once you're in a ride, you can see I can just click that, and if I want to start a ride, I hit the top right. It'll also remind you if you start riding and you haven't started and it detects motion, it'll give you a little pop-up, ask you, do you want to record this ride? It auto pauses as well, so you can see I have the little pause indicator, and then you have a nice responsive screen, so I can just swipe left and right and see my map views or whatever I've configured. You can see with the display, it's also nice and bright, even with this reflection here that you can see with this glossy screen. The colors are bright, and with this dark mode, you have a really high contrast with the black and white. So I really like that about Bryton. It's visible during the day or night, and if you go through shadows, it's still a highly visible screen. They also have their normal shortcuts, so if I swipe up from the bottom, I can go back to the home screen and switch whatever I wanted to do. And then now they also have a single press button to access the quick status menu, and you can customize this as well. So it's pretty cool. You can see I can edit the widgets directly here, show notifications, show whatever I want, light control. And that's a really cool feature. So if you just want to see something on the fly from wherever you're at, I can just tap and you can see battery status, time, and then whatever else I want to display. And again, you can do more customization on the app to readjust the page layout. It's a really nice feature and makes riding a lot easier. So when you're riding, you can see no battery status, no time, but I just tap and I can instantaneously see that data. So I really like that. And then you can see you have the map view. And with this one, you also have the automatic climb challenge. So you can see I actually get a forward projection of the altitude once you start riding, and it'll show you the climb statuses here. So I'll show that in the riding footage, but it's a nice little condensed view of the climb profile, the map, and then some metrics like the distance of the climb, the height, and then your current speed gradient. And again, you can customize what's shown here using the app as well. The display itself is decently sized. It's not huge, so if you're used to bigger screens, you can pack more graphical views, but with this one, you get a nice graphical view, and then you can get 3 more rows here with additional data. So pretty simple to set up. And with this one, it's a little combination of the touchscreen and then the buttons, which are all nicely labeled. Here you can see the Bryton in action. We did the Garmin swap, so we swapped out the Bryton pucks, and then we could use our normal Topeak UTF out front mount. Setting up a ride is really easy. You just pick the route if you want to do a route. Then I'll search for GPS, which is also pretty quick. And the great thing about Bryton is it has a nice little prompt. So if you're riding and you forget to start recording, it'll actually remind you. So it'll give you a little chirp and a little pop-up prompt to ask you, do you want to start recording? So it's a nice feature that always ensures you don't accidentally do a ride without recording it. So here you can see once you accept it, you get a nice animation. And Bryton's really improved their user interface over the years, so nice, easy animations and pretty simple to use. The color touchscreen is nice and large too, at 2.8 inches. You have plenty of space, so you can see here we have our multi-row setup with a nice speed curve on top, cadence, and all the metrics on one page. It's also pretty responsive, so you can switch between screens, see your map view, and then you also have that nice quick action widget overlay when you just do a short press, which you can also customize. The map view on here is also really nice, bright colors, good indicators, and nice, easy to read prompts. The climb challenge is probably the coolest one here. You can see as you get close, I'll show you a little overlay that, hey, you're approaching it, and then a nice start climbing overlay once you start. So it really helps with motivation. You know when it starts, you know when it ends, and you get this nice little view with the map, the profile that's color-coded, and some additional metrics. So pretty nicely done. You see the distance of the climb and the altitude gain. It's a really cool feature, and it's nice to see on these more budget-friendly computers. Right now it's limited to Garmin and Wahoo, but it's great to see here. Otherwise, the S510 is really easy to use, nice bright screen. Navigation prompts are always really nice with Bryton, and it's easy to set up using the app. And then you never really get lost as you get really customized overlays. So if you have a left turn or a roundabout, it has different icons, not just a standard left and right. So overall, really nice experience, easy to use, and with this updated design, a lot nicer display. Here we actually have the old S500. You can see this one had this squared off corners, which used to be their design style. It has a taller display, so more narrow. And the reason I never liked this was because it really feels cramped. So you can see on the same screen, this one is more narrow, so the font sizes are smaller. And that's one downside to this. So I always like the larger size, so you can see more on the new design. The bezels are a lot smaller. This one, they're huge. So it looks more premium. They both have the replaceable puck. And then you can see it was USB Type-C as well. And it's USB Type-C now, but definitely more premium look. And now you have the iClimb 2. So you actually get the climb data as you're riding, which is a really cool feature. The lower end of the Bryton line is like the 17 here. Very similar in shape and design, which is surprising. So this is a 3-inch screen. But you can see it's a predefined grid rather than being a color touchscreen. And then at the top end, we have the S800. It's even taller here. Similar replaceable puck. Big color touchscreen, and you can see it's just gigantic. So you can really see everything. But it definitely costs more. And now with the 510, you get a lot of the same features, but much more compact. iGPSPORT is trying to get in the premium market as well with their IGS 800. So you can see even larger than the Bryton. You have a metal puck, which is really cool. So it's not just plastic, and it's Garmin. By default, you don't have to deal with this conversion. Fake carbon fiber base. And then you also get some cool features like the training load. So using your heart rate data, I'll actually determine your training load and give you things like stamina and other features that you typically see with Garmin. So that's kind of a cool feature here. The downside to iGPSPORT is their navigation really sucks. It gets quite confused, so if you do overlapping routes, it'll get confused. If there's a lot of turns or canyon roads on your route, it just treats everything as a turn, so that's one big downside. But otherwise, there's something like the Magene. This is the C606. You can see similar large size. Magene's a little bit thicker, but with the Magene, the user interface isn't quite as nice. Things like starting a ride are multi-button presses rather than a single press. So I think with the Bryton, I really like the user interface, and they've upgraded the features now. So definitely a great computer at an affordable price point. Now let's take a look at the Bryton app. So with the S510, you have tons of options with the app. The Bryton app itself is pretty nicely designed. They've done a lot of reworking on this. So if you were to use this a few years ago, you'd be pleasantly surprised by the new graphical designs and the UI improvements. You have 4 basic tabs on the bottom. You have your activity overview, so you can see some of the routes we've done. And you have nice basic metrics of that ride. You can see there's nice detail. Obviously, it's not as nice as Strava or other apps, but you do see all the metrics you'd want to see. If you go back, you can see we can activate a lot of the more advanced features of the S510. For navigation, we can set up routes. We can do the navigation directly on here. On my route, you can see I can set up different routes. So one of my previous ones, You can see the full route details, the climbing, elevation. You can adjust the start and stop. So it's really easy to use here. That's what I like about the Bryton app. They've really improved it. So I can set the climbs, set up points of interest that would show up on my map. So if there's a water fountain or something else, very easy to do, rename it and then send it to your device. You can also import them from quite a few different third-party software. So Ride with GPS, Strava, and Komoot. So Ride with GPS is a really nice one to have. You can easily upload a ton of different rides directly from here, or you can plan it directly on this app, which is a little bit more cumbersome. Aside from that, you also have a lot more advanced features. So workout plans, you can set up workouts, and they have some predefined ones, and then you can define them or adjust them to match your own intervals. You can do the live tracking, so you can send a link to someone that wants to track your progress. So if you have someone at home, you can send them a link and they can know exactly where you are the whole time. Group ride features are a really cool one. So this is something we did a video on. You can set up a ride, set up a route, a time, and then you send the code to people, and then you can activate the route when the start time starts, and you can see each other on the actual device. So I'd recommend looking at a different video for that. If you go to your own profile, you can set up the units, about yourself. You can set up your power zone, your weight, and other things so you get more accurate calorie and other intake features on here. And then under the little configuration option, you can see we have the 510. So tons of options here. You can do the firmware update, bike settings, notifications. So if you want to do email or call alerts, you can set that up. If you have the app connected, you also get some of the things like the weather updates and other features on the app. But a lot of the features are offline, which is really nice. So under bike settings, you can see you can adjust each profile separately. You can rename them. You can set up the source. You can configure the pages. So if I go under data page, I can set up exactly which pages I want. So it's a little bit more cumbersome to travel, but once you get in here, I can adjust each page separately. So you can see for this page, I have these configurations. I can adjust it with a ton of options here, just about anything you ever want. So power meter, FTP, heart rate zones, Shimano, graphical views, which is something I really like. So we get this nice speed ring, which is one of my favorite features. Shows your min, your current, average, and maximum all in one area. You can do the same thing for cadence, heart rate, power meter. So really nice. And then you can adjust the page layout. So if you want 6A, you can do 6B, and you can see it's adjusting in real time both on the actual device and on the app. So if we go back to the 6A, you can see I have exactly what I want. And if I want to add additional pages, I can enable them. And what's nice about this one, they don't enable everything at the same time. With a lot of these computers, you get 8 pages at a time and you just don't need it. So this one, I can enable another page, go inside it, and then adjust it as needed. So pretty simple setup. Once you're happy with all your pages, you can adjust the other kind of basic things. So you can see altitude, gain, loss, odometer readings. You can set up multiple odometers, so if you want to track different bike usages. And then you have more general settings. And it's really easy to use the app compared to the device, as everything's larger on this. So you can adjust sound, backlight duration, your overall odometer, voice setting, and tons of other things. So pretty nice setup and easy to use. And again, Bryton has done a lot of improvements to this app to make it a lot more user-friendly. Now let's go over the pros and cons for the Bryton S510. What we like about it is you have a swappable mount, so you can take out the Bryton puck and put a Garmin one with an optional Garmin puck. You also have the Climb Challenge 2.0, which gives you real-time offline climb profiles while you're riding, and that's without a route loaded. So it's a really cool feature you have on the higher-end other computers like Garmin and Wahoo, and it's really cool to see here. The S510 also has a nice bright and vivid screen. It's very responsive and a big improvement over the previous version, which felt a little bit cramped. The only minor negatives here is some of the power on and off chirps are kind of odd sounding. It almost sounds like a speaker is kind of muffled. And then the lock screen is easy to accidentally activate, because if you do a short press on the power button, it'll lock the screen. And if you don't hold it long enough when you're trying to power it on, or power it off actually, then you can accidentally activate it. Taking everything into account would give the Rider S510 a 9.3 out of 10. It's a sleeker and more feature-filled computer that's a big improvement over the S500. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist. This is The Sweet Cyclist reminding you to enjoy the ride.